Hello! Hey there! What up? Hey! So, welcome to my dining room. It looks a little bit bland right now, but it hasn't always been like this. This was actually the first room of the house that we smacked some artwork up on the walls. When my roommate and I first moved in about 3 years ago, we were having a housewarming party and we wanted to get art on the walls for the party, so it looked like we lived there, you know, moved in well. We hung pictures that I had, photographs that I took, and they were 4 set in my studio apartment, and we put them 2 and 2. And this was supposed to be a temporary thing, but it stayed up, of course, for like 3 years. I've never really been happy with the artwork on the walls, and I'm going to try to fix that right now. So there's a couple of changes I've made over the years to the dining room that I really like and I'm gonna keep. And one of those is the chandelier. It's by Justina Blakeney from The Jungalow, and they sell it at a variety of places like Anthropologie. You can snag it when they're having a home sale, and that's how I got mine. I really like the chandelier. I think it's made such a transformation to the space already. It looks so much different than the chandelier that I moved in with. So swapping out a light fixture is a pretty easy switch that you can make in your apartment to make it feel more like your own. One thing that has always stumped me is this wall. It's always been completely blank, and I don't like that because I like artwork, I like color, and I don't like blank walls. That's boring. So I want to do something with this wall, but one thing I have to keep in mind is that it's very high traffic. So I'm always scrubbing like marks off of it because when you're walking by, I guess, you know, might rub a bag, or a lot of people like prop up on the wall when they're like talking. There was artwork on the other 2 walls, so this is the only blank wall to prop. So I want to make sure that it's flat to the wall and maybe not something that someone would knock off of the wall when they're walking by, because I don't want stuff to fall on the floor or get knocked around a lot. That's when I had the idea of doing some sort of wall decal on here, and my mom's told me look up at Washi Tape Accent Wall, so that's gonna be what I attempt to do here. And I've already taken just like a couple of tests to see how it looks like. I had 2 different types of washi tape. I think I'm going to go with this one, the more metallic one. I like these in different lights, but I think during the daytime I prefer the shinier one, even though it kind of shows more imperfection. So the difference between the shinier one and the not shiny is this one is actually mylar, and this one is a true washi tape. Another thing to keep in mind is that this wall is the last wall you see before you enter the kitchen, which has the huge wallpaper wall. I want it to be a better transition than just like blank and then wallpaper, but I also don't want it to be too patterny so it looks bad. Just a thought. For this wall, I'm still not so sure what I'm gonna do. I might continue the washi tape onto this wall. I think eventually I want to do like a big statement piece of art. And then this wall, I think I'm just gonna take these 4 art pieces that I had. I've kind of like redone the frames already so that they have gold on them instead of just the teal that they came with from IKEA, and put them up on this wall in the grid that I had originally designed for it. Okay, and now this artwork, the original frame that it came in was this just blue, you'll see, basic IKEA frame. And for my old apartment, blue is one of the colors that I used, or teal. I actually did these custom mats, and then these are my own photos. I like the mat and I like the photos. Actually, I might change out the photos eventually, but I didn't like the frames anymore. So I bought this contact paper and tried wrapping the frame with the contact paper, but unfortunately this contact paper just did not bend well around edges. So right now we have gold fronts and teal sides. I might see how I can touch that up. Before starting the accent wall, I measured the wall and used Adobe Illustrator to create a scaled mock-up, which helped me decide on the length of the strips and the pattern arrangement. I chose a pattern that made the math simple. Each column consisted of 4-inch strips of tape. The width of the tape roll was 1/2 inch, so I spaced the 4 strips approximately 1/2 inch apart, which created 4 by 4 inch squares, which I spaced 8 inches apart. For the adjacent column, I rotated the orientation of the strips by 90 degrees and offset the starting point. While it's always a good idea to plan ahead, you do not need special digital tools for this project. You can just use a pen and paper to sketch out your ideas before you put them on the wall. I cut the mylar by rolling the tape onto a self-healing cutting mat. Then, I used a metal straight edge and X-Acto knife to cut 4-inch strips of tape. To begin the mylar tape wall, I first prepped the wall by wiping it down. Then, I hung a plumb line where my first tape column would begin, which helped me align my pattern vertically. To create a plumb line, you just need a string that is slightly shorter than the length of your wall and a light object to weight it down on one end. You could use a pencil or a pair of scissors. I used a vegetable peeler. Use painter's tape to attach the non-weighted end of the string at the top of the wall where you're beginning your vertical column. The small weight will hang and pull the string taut, creating a level vertical line for you to use as a guide. To work around the light switch, I used a screwdriver to remove the switch plate, continued the strips underneath the plate, and then reinstalled the switch plate. You could just cut the tape around the switch plate, but I think it looks more finished if the plate goes over the top, and it doesn't take that long to do. The first 2 columns took the longest because I had to measure the space between each square. After the first 2 columns were completed, I continued the horizontal alignment using a metal straight edge, level, and pencil to make sure that each row remained level. To create the 1/2 inch space between each strip, I just eyeballed a space which was equal to the width of the strip. I just finished washi taping my wall and I think it looks awesome. I am so excited with how this turned out, and especially because it was so inexpensive. I spent about $12 on this roll, which is technically mylar tape. I still have so much of it left. It's also very removable. I was putting these strips on, I was taking them off, and the paint was totally fine. I could totally reposition this tape easily. The only issue I was having was with the corners, because you have to kind of peel up a little corner from the adhesive mat I was using. Then you have to flatten it down on the wall, but other than that, it's pretty easy to do. It took me about a total of, I would say, 4 hours, and I didn't do it from start to finish. I took chunks of time to do this. Well, that's about as much time as it would take me to wallpaper this entire wall, or even paint this entire wall, especially considering the prep work involved, either 3 of those tasks. So this is something like I highly recommend. If you want a wallpaper look, but don't want the temporary wallpaper price, which can get pretty high, this is a great alternative, and you can really make it your own. You can do whatever pattern you want. You can go more abstract if you don't want to be worried about grids. You know, just like speckle pattern, go crazy with the lines. You could pull the lines really far too, like stretch all the way across the wall. There's so many options for you to be really creative and make it your own. So I highly recommend this as an inexpensive way to transform your apartment, your dorm room, your bedroom, whether this is a rented property where you need to take it back off the wall, or if it's just a home that you own and you don't want to commit long-term to a wallpaper design, you want an inexpensive solution, I highly recommend. art print frames were a pain in my butt. And not the prints themselves, because I'd already done these prints several years ago, but I didn't like the color of the frame. It was that teal color. So I covered it in contact paper, and the contact paper didn't bend around the edges. So I actually had to go and do every single edge of the frame. I was thinking about just leaving the front, but I went back and I did the sides, and I think it looks pretty good. I actually almost completely ran out of contact paper because I had so many mess ups. I like it better in the gold frame. I wish I hadn't spent so much time on it, but it was a very economical way to spruce up a frame that I already had and continue using the artwork. Maybe you'll want to tackle that contact paper frame DIY yourself, but I would recommend doing it on a frame where you can just do like a couple pieces on the outside and maybe you don't have to cover the entire frame. But since I already had these blue frames, I wanted to make it work. So now I've washi taped 2 walls of my dining room, and I went ahead and I hung the art prints up on this wall in the dining room, and I'm considering doing some more washi tape on this side to kind of continue the pattern and maybe end it at a diagonal, but I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna let it sit here for a while and see what I think. Let me know what you think. And then for this wall in the back, I want to add like a large scale, either a wall hanging or maybe an art print. I've had my eye on a couple of art prints, so it might be time to invest in that. But let me know what you think about the space.